Benny, great to have you on with us. President Obama, you may have heard, is while we're in the midst of all this stuff with Kavanaugh, we have a sort of a concurrent story running rampant out there in the media land where you spend a lot of your time. President Obama is not going to give his endorsement, though, to Keith Ellison. What do you make of that?
That's correct. The president will not be endorsing Keith Ellison. Keith Ellison has been accused of domestic abuse. He has been found innocent of an investigation done by his own party and by a lawyer and an attorney who has supported him in the past in his race. And so that investigation has now been referred to local law enforcement. So I believe that this probably will not be the end of the story of the allegations against Keith Ellison. The embattled DNC #2 is probably a smart decision to not endorse him, as local law enforcement may be able to compel his accuser, Karen Monahan, of revealing physical evidence, a video that she says is in her possession of the abuse that she is alleging Ellison committed against her. Also verbal abuse, slurs, and sexist slander is all that the DNC #2 has been accused of. Probably a smart choice by the president not to endorse.
You know, Benny, let me ask you this, because you're out there, you're in D.C., you're in the Capitol often, you're over at the White House. You're one of the more hooked-in guys in political media in D.C. Why are people, even in right-leaning media, centrist media, giving Amy Klobuchar a pass on her support of Keith Ellison, giving Kirsten Gillibrand a pass on her support of Eric Schneiderman, the disgraced former New York Attorney General, had to resign after allegations from 4 women that he beat them? I'm not seeing anybody chase down Amy Klobuchar or Gillibrand and ask them any questions about either of these incidents.
Right, and you're seeing that reflected in the American public. You're seeing that reflected in polling. You're seeing that reflected in a surge in GOP polling and a lot of Senate races that were lean Democrat that are now toss-ups. A lot of Senate races that were toss-ups that now lean right. You're seeing this reflected in a national movement. Republicans are pissed. And the Republican base is pissed at this double standard, and rightfully so, I believe, because you are watching a party that is the party of Harvey Weinstein, that is the party of Anthony Weiner. Let's remember, it's Anthony Weiner's lewd text messages to an underage woman, to an underage girl, that caused the reopening of the Hillary Clinton investigation. Right before the election. This is a major hypocrisy. There are photos of Amy Klobuchar with Keith Ellison. She fundraised for him. She campaigned for him. There are photos of Kirsten Gillibrand, another tip-of-the-spear Democrat against Kavanaugh. She is there with Harvey Weinstein. She accepted money from Harvey Weinstein. She worked with the attorneys who represented Harvey Weinstein.
That's David Boies' law firm, big Democratic firm, and Harvey Weinstein paid them millions, the Boies firm, which Gillibrand worked for, to keep Harvey Weinstein out of trouble. You raised the point, we raised the point, but we're in the vast minority of media that are bringing this up.
Yeah, it's funny when you're here in Washington, D.C., you still get grumblings from reporters for having to cover Al Franken. You still hear at parties and at events and receptions that they're upset that they had to cover the sexual allegations of a man who has literal photographic evidence of him groping a woman while she was sleeping. This is, and the reporters reporters are upset that they had to sacrifice, that Al Franken was a sacrificial lamb on the altar of the Me Too movement. And now you have a Kavanaugh moment, which is really, the more you hear the left talk about it and people that are on the ideological left, it is just revenge. It is just revenge for Merrick Garland. And it is stop at all costs. They said so from the beginning. And so there is a little bit of a frustration with Republicans not taking a stand and saying we will not be responding any longer to these allegations. This is spun into the cycle of absurdity. And I believe you're seeing that with Mitch McConnell today. Mitch McConnell saying we will be voting this week on Kavanaugh.
But Benny, you know, when we're talking about Kavanaugh, all we had is allegations. There's still absolutely zero evidence, and the allegations even get weirder and weirder. But they went back into his high school yearbook and his high school beer drinking. I mean, it's gone so far that it's to the utter ridiculous.
A 1985 concert, a UB40 concert.
UB40 concert, red wine. But I wonder if Democrats who are investigating their friend Keith Ellison are looking into his high school or college drinking habits or what music he happened to listen to back in the day.
Right.
It's fascinating double standard. It's an absolutely fascinating double standard. You have Karen Monahan who claims to have physical evidence, but at the very least is a credible witness against Ellison. She dated him. They have photographs together. They have a long history together. And this story is, by the way, of the DNC sitting number 2. He's still number 2, the second most powerful man in the Democratic Party, is sitting here facing these credible accusations and is now, as of today, as of just a few minutes ago, is being investigated by law enforcement for doing this. But it took months for the DNC to respond to this. It took days for the DNC chairman to even issue a statement. And if you watch the way that the press behaves on Capitol Hill, it's absolutely comical. They are hounding Republican senators, asking how they can support an alleged sexual abuser. But Keith Ellison is allowed to, and every Democrat on the Hill is allowed to wander to and fro with complete anonymity. No one's chasing down Keith Ellison. No one's going up to Keith Ellison to ask him questions. He is literally standing in the hallways of Capitol Hill waiting for a coffee, and there's not a single reporter who comes and approaches him. But yet the GOP has mobs around them every time Susan Collins pokes her head out of a door. It really is an absolute effective double standard in how coverage can be set, a narrative can be set from the national media.